मेरे को साफ किया, जो मेरे को साफ किया, साफ नजर तू आया, रब को मेहरबान पाया, आईना साफ किया, साफ नजर तू आया। ये मैं मेरा ही मुझको तुझसे दूर किए था, ये मैं मेरा ही मुझको तुझसे दूर किए था, जाने गुरूर था क्यों मुझको जो मगरूर किए था, जाने गुरूर था क्यों मुझको जो मगरूर किए था, निगाह पर्दा हटा, रब को निगहबां पाया, निगाह पर्दा हटा, रब को निगहबां पाया, आईना साफ किया, साफ नजर में आया। ये तेरी यादें तो रूबरू मिलाती है, ये तेरी यादें तो रूबरू मिलाती है, देखूं तुझे तो बड़ा रूह सुकून पाती है, देखूं तुझे तो बड़ा रूह सुकून पाती है, कभी न मैं तन्हा रब को रहनुमा पाया, कभी न मैं तन्हा रब को रहनुमा पाया, आईना साफ किया, साफ नजर तू आया, आईना साफ किया, साफ नजर में आया।
Om Shanti, Sister Jayanti.
Om Shanti Arunaben.
And well, a warm welcome to you and a warm welcome to everyone. And it's been lovely having Sister Jayanti in London, sharing her insights, stories, fragrance, love, kindness. Thank you. So today we'll be revising Sunday's Murli, in which Baba is asking us to be liberated and using everything in a worthwhile way. And gentlemen, I was struck, of course, we've heard it before, but I'm sure quite a few of us were struck this time about the accumulation and how we've been accumulating. It's an eye-opener, really, that what we thought we had accumulated has actually been going to waste. And there are a couple of stories to kind of support this. One is from Ramesh Bhai's book. Ramesh Bhai, the senior Ramesh Bhai, he had actually written a book on all his stories dealing with different people because he was dealing with accounts. And so he had many stories of talking to people, encouraging people to make a will, to donate in time, etc. So there's quite a few stories on that, but he also adds a story from the scriptures. And the story is that he's highlighting how there's a difference between service and accumulation. And so there was a king who died. And what happened is that when he got to Chitragupt is the assistant to Dharmraj. So he holds the accounts. So when he got to him, Chitragupt said, I'm sorry, sir, but you, in your account, you have registered the killing of hundreds of thousands of fish. And he said, but how can that be? Because I'm a vegetarian. I've never touched a fish in my life. And so Chitragupt said, well, there was a fisherman who had bought a net from the money that you donated to him. And so that is gone into your account. So instead of that being a donation, that's gone into the account of sin. And then another story that, in fact, Baba had said this himself, that there was a child who was a right hand of Brahma Baba and very surrendered, very cooperative in all ways. But then what happened is he died suddenly. And so the money was taken by the relatives. And so all the relatives are now usurping this money and using it for gambling and not so good deeds. And so again, what happened is Baba explained that this soul is also experiencing the return of that. Because then Ramesh Bhai asked Baba, but Baba, how can that be? Because he didn't do it, he didn't commit the sin. But Baba said that the fact that he left that money, he didn't think about it, he left it. If they didn't have that money, they wouldn't commit sin. They wouldn't gamble with it. And so the point being that it's kind of, anyway, I'm sure you'll explain, Jayanti, and we can unpack it later, but how it's not just what I do right now, but what's going to be left after as well. And the repercussion of that holds still a big account on the soul. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnaben. Yes, amazing stories of karma philosophy. And really, one doesn't really think about it in the way that Baba explains it. And so it really is an eye-opener, as you said. But I'd like to start at the beginning. And this time, and I was thinking that we must have heard around 45 Murlis related to New Year's Day. But every time Baba comes up with something fresh, something new, just like with Shivratri, I was always aware that Baba's been talking about Shivratri since 1969. And every year we'd get a fresh take on Shivratri. Similarly, Diwali, or especially now with the new year, because Baba came regularly, 31st December. And so there'd always be a New Year's Murli. And this time Baba said how it's greetings not just for the new year, but for the children who are creating the new age. So it wasn't even just greetings for the new age that's about to come, but for the creators of the new age. And I thought that was very lovely. And of course, then Baba reminding us of the whole situation of the new age. Can you emerge that experience and bring it in front of you within a second? What would your new body be like? What would the elements be like? What would the kingdom be like? Can you visualize how the elements are going to be serving you? Can you visualize, can you experience how it'll be like to have all rights to this kingdom, which is unshakable, unbreakable? And so Baba's really allowing us to emerge that memory and how many times have you claimed this kingdom? And so the whole trick or the essence of Gyan is in the story of emerging and merging. So what is it that I emerge? Can I have control and mastery over that? Because between the thoughts and the intellect judging the thought and letting it pass through or not, I can be working on my mind, I can be working on my buddhi, my intellect, and suddenly something triggers a memory and the chit, the memory track, kicks in. And however I'd try to discipline my mind and to work with my intellect, this memory and the feelings associated with those memories finishes it all if it's a negative memory of sorrow. And so here's Baba telling us, use this concept of emerging that memory and experiencing what it's like in that new age, because you've been there many, many, many times. It's there in your memory track, at the moment hidden, but don't let it stay hidden. Emerge it, experience it, and feel it, so that now that is the dominant vision that's in front of you, and you're able to move towards it and make it happen. And so this is the beautiful thing about Baba, reminding us of how natural and easy effort can be. And in this case, just simply emerge the memory of your own state of sovereignty and the beauty of the kingdom at that time around you. And then, of course, you've mentioned some of the highlights of the Murli. And yes, one of the big things that Baba said was, let this year be the year of liberation. And this is the year also in which you bring together people from all backgrounds, different professions, different traditions, different religions, and let them stay connected with the seed, because God is the seed and the Brahmins are the branch. And so just as God serves the whole tree, our duty also is to serve the whole tree of humanity, every branch and every part of that branch, all the little twigs and everything. And in that, I was reminded of Noah's Ark, where God gave the instruction that you have to gather all the species two by two, and bring them onto the ark, and the ark will be able to take them across. It wasn't told the whole story, but just build the ark in faith. He did it, and then bring these animals species by species. And so he did that with faith also. And then, of course, the flood came, and those who were in Noah's ark were able to be saved and go across. But a little bit similar idea, every single group, every single profession represented. And the interesting thing there, that not only are you serving the founders of the other religions so that they carry away that relationship with the seed and something from the seed of that truth, and that becomes a support for them to establish their own branch. But also, even though there are professions that won't be represented in Satyug, you won't have doctors, you won't have dentists, you won't have lawyers, you won't have policemen, you won't have any of these. But yet, Baba was saying that whatever seed of knowledge is planted in those souls, they carry that with themselves. And then at the time in the Copper Age, and all these other trades and professions begin, then at that time, whatever they've taken will help them invent. I was using the word inventor. So it'll help them invent whatever is the next step in terms of the service through that particular profession and career. So that's a beautiful idea, that the inventors are also the ones who have taken power from God at the confluence age. And so this is really the time of writing history for the whole Kalpa. We've always understood that in terms of the personal story of the cycle, But this is Baba reminding us that Baba's talking about the whole tree. And the tree represents not just the religions and the traditions, but it also represents all the different groupings of humanity. And I was also remembering that, yes, the service of professionals, Baba had first told us, and that was 1988, Global Cooperation for a Better World. And Baba remembered that later on, because the Hindi translation of that is what's come in the translation of the Murli, creating a happy world by giving cooperation, or something like that. But with the cooperation of all, that's right, creating a happy world with the cooperation of all. They found it very difficult to translate global cooperation for a better world. And so then they use this one, Sukhamay Sansar Sarvake Sahयोग Se. So it was from the English to the Hindi, and from the Hindi again back to the English in this Murli. And so it sort of changed a little bit along the way. But it was 10 years later or so that Baba then said, now find the mic souls. And those souls who have recognized Baba, who've taken benefit from Baba, and then are able to reach out to others and serve them also. And how maybe initially they don't have the capacity, they don't have the inner power and commitment to follow a pure lifestyle. It's okay, they lack that courage at that time. But the more they serve and the more they awaken others through their service, the return of that is that they get the power, and then they're able to become proper yogis. And so serving all the professions and all the different groups in this way, knowing that this is the time to be able to do it. So Baba gave us that year, 1998. This is end 97. And so the plan for the year. And so then, of course, Baba said that, well, service is fine, but if you don't have the effort that you need to make for yourself on that inner level, then you won't have the power to give them the sakash. They won't be able to take that strength. You'll do the service, but it'll be without that inner strength. At some point in the Murli, not immediately there, but later on, Baba was talking to the Dadis and saying that you are the ones who emerged at the very beginning. And what is it that you did? You carried that faith and that love, and it was only Baba, Baba, Baba in your awareness. And this is why the next generation of air quality souls were created, who became the instruments for the foundation of service in Bharat and the world. And so when it's only Baba and Baba alone, then that creates an air quality soul. And of course, Baba's other big topic was, don't waste anything, use everything in a worthwhile way. Safal karo, safalta lo. Hindi is much shorter. Safal karo, use in a worthwhile way. And then success, safalta, safalta pao. You're able to attain success only if all that you have used has been used in a worthwhile way. And one particular story connected very much with that. When Dadi left her Lokik husband's home, the in-laws' home, she differentiated between, because her family, mother's family were jewelers, her in-laws were jewelers, and so she must have had a lot of jewelry. But at that point, she differentiated between the things that had been given by her in-laws, and she left them there, and the things that she had been given by her mother's side, her parents' side, she brought with herself. And it was, of course, surrendered for the service of the yajna. Another sister who came from a very high-level background, and so she would have had masses of both from the in-laws as well as from her parents' home. And she came to Baba absolutely penniless, without anything, which was fine. But she had left behind what was her own property. And I knew this sister, and I never saw her attain a very, very elevated stage in the way that most of the other daddies had done. And Baba's comment about that a little bit connected with what you were sharing, Arunaben, that if what is my rightful property is not used in the right way, then of course it's going to be squandered in a body conscious way by the others who have access to it. But the burden of that comes back to me. And as I say, during the time that this lady was alive, I could just see that her intellect just wasn't of that caliber as even her Lokik sister. Her Lokik sister left at the same, no, her Lokik sister had left just earlier, a few months earlier. And so she had surrendered, and she was younger than the married one, of course. So she was single. So this other sister, younger, but the one who had come to Baba a bit earlier and was very bright, she was able to share Gyan in a beautiful way. And this other one couldn't. She'd be dithering. She wouldn't have that same sort of clarity and spiritual authority. But when I heard this other aspect of the story from Dadi, and I knew both of them because Dadi was in Pune, and this other sister and her Lokik sister, they're both at another center in Pune. And so it clicked. This is what is karma. Not only do I use what I have in the rightful way, but if I don't use it in the rightful way, then it's going to work against me. And so the aspect of discernment and that appreciation and understanding of karma. And so Baba talking about using everything in a worthwhile way. And of course, the biggest treasure that Baba always mentions is our thoughts and our time. Our thoughts, it takes a lot of attention to make sure that my thoughts stay on track and I'm lifted by those powerful, pure thoughts. Or if I'm not able to discipline my mind and there's negativity, then that negativity is going to, of course, bring me down. But also my time. How am I using my time? Is my time being used for something worthwhile? Or is my time just slipping out of my fingers? You know, I sit down and I read something and I keep reading and I keep reading, and half an hour, 45 minutes goes by, and I suddenly realize, where did my time go? Or if my time is used in a negative way, of course, that's even worse. But on any level, if I'm not using my time in the rightful way, in a worthwhile way, then there's no margin of accumulation. So thoughts, time, breath. Every time I breathe, the in and the out, what's going on? Where is my mind? Where are my thoughts taking me? Or if my breath is also very much connected with my words. So are my words being used in a worthwhile way? Is this also part of the story of accumulation? Yes, definitely it is. And then Baba mentioning this very detailed, delicate, subtle aspect that I might think I have accumulated a lot, but yet Baba is saying it's gone into the account of waste. Why? Because instead of the true acknowledgement that whatever it is I think I have done, actually I was only an instrument. And I was very fortunate to have that opportunity to be an instrument. Because if I hadn't said yes, there would have been 10 others who would have been equally capable and done so much for Baba. But I had the fortune of saying yes. And so I created my fortune, but it was Baba that made it happen. And if I say, I did this, bang, I think I've done a lot and I've accumulated, but in fact, it's gone into the account of waste. And so that little thought, and Baba described it in a very funny way. What is a sound that a cat makes? Meow. Me, I. And so sometimes Maya comes in the form of the cat, and she makes you say, my service, I did this. If I hadn't been there, this wouldn't have happened. And so all these thoughts related to my role, my part, any of these thoughts, and it's in that category of waste. Instead of being an instrument for God and letting God work through me, which happens to all of us, we feel that there's a service we couldn't have done. It was Baba that made it happen. Baba that knocked on the door and the door opened and I was able to walk through. So I think I've accumulated, I've done a lot of service, and Baba's saying, no, I'm looking at your record and you haven't got anything in that account, but this went into the account of waste because of what I did myself. Here's God offering me multifold, multi-million times fortune. And here I am trying to claim my rights. And I think that this is what I should do. Let people know it's me. I did this. But I don't need to do that. God sees, God knows, and it's accumulated. And in fact, the more incognito I am, the safer I am. Becoming too visible creates many problems. And I don't need extra work. I need to keep myself incognito so things move at their own speed in the right way. So the cat and the eye, and the mouse has a way of biting so gently. It'll gnaw away at anything. Here's a piece of plastic and it'll gnaw away at that. Here's a wire and it'll gnaw away at that. It'll go everywhere and get into everything. And Maya comes in different ways to take my treasures. And she's gnawing away and she's eating up my treasures and I don't even realize it. And to Baba's point, deal with the cat, deal with the mouse, and deal with the lion. Maya comes in the form of a lion. And even though I think I'm fearless, I know the soul's eternal, I know God is with me, so what is there to be afraid of? There's nothing. And yet, the lion will come and spark off fear inside of me, and it's going to create havoc. Fear does not allow me to think clearly or deeply. And now I'm wondering what and how and if and but I don't need to. I'm doing what I can do in the right way possible. I have Baba with me, and I'm keeping Baba very consciously with me. And so Baba wants us to be free from all these animals that hunt us down and cause us infinite problems. Maya is very adaptable. Maya can take on whichever form she chooses. And so let me be aware of that and deal with Maya so that I can truly experience liberation. Otherwise, where the I comes in and I speak about it, I did this, then the fortune which could have been multi-million fold is all dissipated. And in fact, there's a problem that's being created because whatever it is that's happened, then there's going to be others involved and it's going to be headaches for everyone. So can I just keep to the awareness that it's Baba who's doing it, Baba who's in charge, and Baba who's going to liberate me from all the things that I need liberation from. And so that was a very, very powerful message from Baba about the economy of thoughts, words, actions, mind, body, wealth, everything. And then again, another very practical instruction. Whatever it is you're doing in terms of service, don't ever think about it up there, you know, the height of luxury, or don't think about it down below that, you know, I have to get the cheapest thing of all. No, Baba says, take the middle path, take the middle road. Let it be solid, let it be beautiful, but also let it be simple. And if I remember simplicity, then I'll also learn to be more and more royal in everything that I do. And so not to get led astray by all the attractions that come our way today, but in everything, take the middle path, neither high nor low, but the middle. And again, it'll bring a lot of peace and answer a lot of questions in my own mind if I do this. And then, of course, yes, to remember that having been through the cycle many, many, many times, now I really want to become Satu Pradhan so that I can go home with Baba. So these were some of the things that came out in the Murli. Half my account is what I usually thought. If Baba says, you know, if the I comes in, then half is gone. But today Baba was indicating it's not just half, it's everything that goes. There is nothing left in my accumulation because I and my both come in together usually. On the one side, it's I and mine, but on the other side, it's this one is mine, and so I have to also share it with them. So I'm putting myself in a very, very limited box and thinking about them. But what about my big family? And maybe not the whole worldwide family. That's a huge thing to think about. But whoever is the one in charge in my area, the one who's there. So can I very definitely make sure that I stay on track and accumulate and not allow anything to go to waste? So a very powerful lesson from Baba. And in those days, of course, we waited till midnight with Baba. Baba had plenty of things to do because we'd have our personal meetings, we have our group meetings. And somebody reminded me that that was the time that I was with Baba, and the other person who Baba invited to come on the stage was Chris Drake. So he was sitting on the brother side. This is, by then it was already Diamond Hall. And so the Dadis are there and I'm there with the Dadis. But then Baba starts another subject. This is pre-midnight. After the main Murli, and Baba's met many individuals, many groups. And at that point, then Baba beckons me across and I go close to Baba. And Baba says, is the brother here? And I knew he was talking about Chris. So Chris was on the other side and I beckoned him across. He was already on the stage, but with where the brothers were. So he came across and Baba started talking to us about how to approach the UN for our application there. Because if you recall, first we just had what was called DPI status, the Department of Public Information, NGO affiliated to them. And that is thousands and multi-thousands of NGOs now, but even in the 90s, it was quite a big number. And then some of our good friends at the UN, Robert Muller and others, had said, why don't you apply for an upgrade? And so in 83, after Robert Muller had come to the opening of Om Shanti Bhavan, then the following year, we applied for an upgrade. And at that time, it was called something, I think it was category A or something. Now they call it general consultative status, which is the highest status that an NGO can get. And it applies to, it means you have access to every department, every unit of the UN, because your expertise is recognized as being of value to all the different crises that the UN is trying to resolve and face. So Pakistan had vetoed our application at that time, saying that we were too new and we didn't really have a track record, which was a fact. We'd only joined in 82, and so by 83, 84, there wasn't very much that we'd done. But Robert Mueller had said to us later again to apply. And so this was our next application. And he'd said, that's right, they vetoed us to go on to the general, but they'd still said that you can be on the roster and we'll see how you do. But this time, we were trying to work out how we fit in within the things of the UN, what they want, and the workings of the university. And of course, normally we get everything verified by Madhuban, and Baba knew this. Dadi Gulzar had been involved in many of our conversations. And so at this point, Baba says, it's very simple. Yes, the world gets together, the RC body, and makes decisions, but all you have to do is to then make sure that you seek the blessings of the seniors in Madhuban. That's the system that you're using anyway. It's all of you that decide, but then you seek the blessings. And so that's how we put it in our application, because they wanted to know whether it was a democratic process. And then, am I getting into a very long story? I suppose I am, but just 2 more bits about that story because it's fascinating. So that was 1st of January by then. And I phoned Gayatri and told Baba, says, yes, go ahead with your application. That was a question to Baba, should we or should we not? And around the 7th or 8th of January, there was this big story that hit the world headlines. And I got calls from Australia, from Brazil, from all over. And it was that Heidi, a person who had been a BK, was supposed to lead a group up a mountain. And they were saying that it's the end. And this hit the headlines. There was nothing wrong that had happened, but it came about in the Spanish papers in this way. But from the Spanish papers, it went everywhere. And so there's a big, big ruckus going on. I had to go to Spain to meet the press there and explain that Heidi isn't a BK. She had come to the BKs, but she wasn't a BK anymore. It was her own little group, etc. And then on the 17th of January, I flew to New York for 1 day, went in the morning and came back in the evening so that I could be there for 18th in London because Dadi's health was not so strong. And Mohini Ben and Gayatri had insisted that I come because this whole ruckus was going on and anybody in the governing board, they had a president and a whole board of countries that were going to be looking at our application, and it could have been challenged through this other story. And Brahma Kumari's B was first, and the president at that time was a Polish guy who knew the BKs, and I'd known him in Poland. And he looked at the application and he said, well, Brahma Kumari's is first, and what would anyone like to say about this? And India said, I support. I've seen their good work. Costa Rica supported because Eleanor Dettiger had done a lot of good work there. The Philippines supported because that had been very good. Letitia Shahani. And then USA supported. And the woman said, the ambassador, she said that I have seen these sisters in white come to every single one of our very boring meetings. It shows me how committed they are to the service at the UN. And so I support their application. So it was yes, 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 no questions. And he hit the gavel and said, granted. and I began to breathe again because I'd literally stopped breathing because Moini Bennett said that I'm not going to answer their questions. You took Drishti from Baba. You have to answer their questions, and Gayatri said the same. But then we stayed for a little while, and every single other application had lots of people challenging them, many questions asked, and not everybody was granted what they were requesting. So that was God's grace. Baba's drishti, Baba's working magic, and amazing. As I say, it was a very long story, very detailed, and I've left out some of the interesting bits, but in the interest of time. So that was that same night that Baba had spoken that, Murli. So.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's lovely to hear these stories of courage and bravery. And yeah, it's amazing how Baba's work just continues. I mean, there's absolutely not an iota of doubt that God is in charge. So, gentlemen, just to go back to this point of air quality souls. So, Baba had said that now very few air quality souls come to Baba because Baba is mixed with the consciousness of I. But, gentlemen, again, the soul that's meant to come will come, even if somebody's I. Don't you think so?
It's interesting, isn't it? There's always this balance of my stage and the impact it has on the souls in front of me, but also their destiny and their future. But you know how drama colludes and everything comes together in synchronicity, and that is right. And so when I'm in the right consciousness and it's Baba, 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 Baba's able to work through me, and those souls are able to manifest, they emerge. And if I'm not in the right consciousness, somebody else would have the fortune and they would emerge anyway. But you can see why Baba's saying that the souls at the beginning, the ones who came then, they created the air quality souls who became the main instruments for Bharat and also outside of Bharat for the world. So it was their stage, it was the fortune of those souls, and it was Baba's magic all coming together. But so my stage makes a difference to my fortune. That soul is going to come to Baba in some way or another anyway. But where does my fortune fit in? And it fits in with my stage.
Okay, and then connected with that, okay. It's not always the soul saying that I'm the one, but perhaps others are saying that she's the one or he's the one, and putting them in front. That, in other words, sewa cannot happen if we don't have this soul. So, what's the karmic rebound of that?
It depends to what extent I accept it and I say, yes, it's true, actually. I'm being externally very quiet, but internally I'm thinking, yeah, if I'm not there, this and this and this can't happen. But yet, of course, I've accepted it when I know that it's going to be Baba, and Baba has to make it happen. But if I'm playing a particular role, yes, Baba's given me that fortune, that opportunity. And yes, it is my role, but with Baba, then it happens. Otherwise, things get stuck. We've often seen how people have ideas that seem brilliant, but somehow they get stuck. And so that's what's going on.
Okay, thank you. So I want to go back to December 31st, Murli, in which Baba said that your yoga tapasya has not yet become tap. In other words, your yoga tapasya has not become intense fire yet. So can you maybe go through the gradients of yoga tapasya? Or what is the experience of tap?
The word means the heat, so the fire of yoga, yoga again, and the fire of love. Both things come together, the fire of yoga and the fire of love. And that stage in which first I'm connecting with Baba and I'm talking to Baba, but a stage beyond in which it's not just a connection with Baba, but I am absolutely with Baba and I don't need to say anything. So it's not conscious thought that's happening, but literally it's that pure connection of love. And as I stay focused on Baba and not allow any other distractions to come, and this is why it needs practice, but if I stay in that stage, then the fire of love is actually removing my alloy. And so the process is that I have to learn to focus, not just a few thoughts of Baba and then a few thoughts about this, about that, about the other. But why Baba says, sometimes Baba says yoga is easy, it's simply remembrance. And sometimes Baba says, not so easy, keep a chart and you'll be able to see to what extent you are actually in that stage. So it means that the practice that I have of concentration and focus, ekagrta, ekagarchit, absolutely just one in my awareness. And thoughts have become very quiet, very silent. And in that stage more, it's the experience of that love and the power of that love that's allowing the impurities to melt away and the alloy is being removed from the soul. It could be described as a seed stage. It could be described as the fire of yoga, that tapasya, tap, the heat, that energy. And so that's what I need to do. And why it is that 10, 20, 30 years, 40 years for some of us, 50 years for some, and sanskars aren't changing yet, because I haven't sat in that stage of total, absolute, deep love for Baba, in which my sins can be removed and I can move on further. Because when the account of my sins is settled, then my sanskars change. And that change becomes visible through my words, my behavior, my actions, but also it becomes visible to me because now I'm not battling with thoughts anymore. Sanskars change and the quality of my thinking changes also. And so when Baba says, have nothing but pure elevated thoughts, we know what it's like to have elevated thoughts, but we forget and we come down again. And then again, we strive to go up. But that stage where my sanskars are becoming satupradhan, completely pure, then what is the quality of thought that will come? It's just the pure elevated thought and no waste thoughts, never mind negative, but no waste thoughts, nor even ordinary thoughts, only the thoughts that are going to take practical shape.
Yeah, and gentlemen, I loved what you shared this morning as well, adding to that really about we can only take power from Baba when I'm absolutely just in one thought of him. That's it. And of course, then that translates into physical, right? I mean, then we don't move, we don't shuffle, we don't get distracted. That was beautiful. And I also wanted to share, gentlemen, when you were sharing about Janki Dadi. So the similar thing had happened to Santri Dadi. She kept getting sick. And then she had gone home and she too had, taken back some of her wealth and she'd brought it back. And somehow that plus Baba's love and all that had got her well. And Baba had said to her, that's because there was still that tie, that connection. So, yeah. So now we have a few questions. Of course, quite a lot of questions had come in during the course of your absence. But let's try this one and then we'll take a few from the chat. So do we have a karmic account with God, the Supreme Soul? Some were saying that perhaps because he helps us, he protects us. makes a deal with us, ensures us that we do have a karmic account with him. Others maintain that the Supreme Soul is beyond the effect of action, and because he is never affected by anything we do, we don't have an account of karma with him.
I like to think that there is a give and take. It's not karma, bondage on God's part, but constant giving, and my giving something little in return. And again, it's creating my fortune. So whether I give him back the return of the love he's invested in me or I don't, then that's my destiny. And so it's nothing to do with God receiving anything from me, but God's role, the bestower. Today, again, Baba said, just simply to give. Baba doesn't need a thing from me. What is it that I can give? So there's no karma on his part, but I think the give and take is through my own awareness I'm taking. So I want to give the return for what I have received. And that's then my fortune. It's not going back to him. It's for me.
Okay, we'll take a few questions from chat. So they're asking about the picture at the back, Jayanti-ben, where I don't know if you're able to see it.
I saw it earlier, yes.
Yeah. So do you know that scene? Do you know what's going on there?
Which one? There's about 5 different pictures.
The top left, Brahma Baba with Manor Dadi, Janki Dadi.
No, I haven't heard the story behind it. I know Dadi Janki is in that, and at one point we commented on it to Dadi, and Dadi didn't recollect it either.
Yeah, I think he's peeling something, peas or something. Okay, here's another one. So, is it possible that in a karmic bondage, even if I'm feeling less and less bondage, that I have to stay in that situation so that the other, the partner, I guess, has the opportunity to fulfill their karmic debt, even if they're not a BK?
I think if I'm in bondage and it doesn't feel like bondage, it means that I have more or less settled everything. While I'm feeling upset and angry or frustrated or whatever it may be, then that bondage is very real. But where maybe there are restrictions, but I'm able to follow the principles in the way that I would like. Today, Baba spoke about being fearless, about going to class and the Murli. And so perhaps there are restrictions, but I'm still able to go to class and hear the Murli, not just hear the Murli online now, or in those days, just read the paper Murli later. If I'm able to follow celibacy, sometimes there are other types of bondages, restrictions, but so long as I'm able to do what I need to do in terms of my spiritual progress, then that's fine. Then it's better to stay rather than create a breakup. But if I feel okay, but it means that I'm still not really able to follow all the principles in the way that I like. For example, I'm not forced to eat meat myself, but maybe I still feel that I need to cook meat for my family. Well, that is bondage. And I can't just say, well, I'm happy doing this, because no, it's bondage and it's creating more bad karma for me. So you see, it's a strange type of situation that I don't understand fully. But there can be different situations like that that I've described. So,
Yeah. Okay. Those who stay in remembrance are always entertaining and cheerful. They explain to others with great happiness and in an entertaining way. That's from Baba's Murli, right? So
yeah.
can Sister Jayanti explain, is it that someone who's a bit more serious is not in good remembrance?
This morning, reading the Murli and GRC, I was commenting that Dadi's nature, Dadi Janki's nature used to be very serious. And then later on, we saw Dadi just develop this humor and lightness and entertaining nature. And so I do know that there are changes that happen as the yoga power increases, as the sanskars change, and there's an all-round personality development. Definitely there is change. And it's not that you're not serious. Dadi, when she was talking intently about something, she was very focused and she was serious, but then she would laugh about something or another and it would lighten up. Jagdish Pai, many of you did meet him, and he was very deep, very profound in his thinking and very serious. But yet, when he'd share a story, then he'd sort of first quietly laugh and like, And you remember he used to go like that? And then he would burst out laughing. At first, he tried to control his laughter, but you could see it, and then he'd explode in laughter. So yes, he was very entertaining sometimes. You can be both. It's not the one or the other. But there are people who are, dry rather than just serious. Serious is fine. But if you're a bit dry, and it's because you haven't experienced God's love and you don't have that lightness of spirit that comes from the beauty of remembrance, that's a different story.
Yeah, you would have the first laugh. Okay, I think this is a quick one, but only the thoughts that are to happen practically should arise. Only those who have to do this practically will think that they have to do this. Only then will this corporeal world become a subtle region.
Yeah. I have a thought that this should happen, and I'm sharing with this one who's not interested. And then I go to this one and they don't have the capacity. So that's a waste of energy. But if it's really a state of mind in which only pure thoughts are arising, then I'll also have the touching to know who to go to, who has the capacity and the possibility of doing it. And I'll share this idea with them and it'll get done. We saw it happen with the Dadis. They had a thought and they talk about it with either this one or that one or this one, and things would happen so quickly. So it's a reality that we've seen.
Okay, so maybe just this last question, gentlemen, because it is the month of silence, Abhyakt month. And so somebody else was asking that sometimes we need communication to improve things, improve relationships. So should we be striving for silence, or should we just be striving for better communication or necessary communication? So one, what are your thoughts on that? And then any words, last words you want to give us this month of January?
Baba wants us to reach a point where we're so close to each other and so trusting of each other that we can pick up each other's thoughts through vibrations and signals, so that it doesn't need a whole detailed explanation of why we should do this or how it should happen, but we connect. And again, you saw it with Dadi and some people. Dadi would have a thought, another person would catch it, and it would happen. And yet with another person, Dadi might have to sit and explain things in detail in a big way. And so my relationship with those around me should be built on that closeness and trust, so that with just a few words, we understand and things move. And where there's a lack of trust, the amount of breath and energy that's taken in explaining why this has to happen, why that shouldn't happen, you can see there's such a vast contrast. So the ideal is where it's minimal communication in words, but more communication just through our thoughts and our feelings, and be able to catch each other's feelings and respond in an appropriate manner. So Baba's telling us what the ideal should be. And if we're nowhere near that, and it needs a lot of communication, better that I explain and take the time to communicate so that we are on the same page, then we move together. Maybe our expectations of each other sometimes too high, and we haven't invested enough time to be able to be that trusting of each other, where we pick up each other's thoughts, and then it does take time to communicate. So as time goes on, it should take less and less time because our relationships are closer. And
Any
yes,
yeah.
I love this practice that Baba spoke about some days ago. Don't stay down here with all the detail and stuff. Yes, you need to get things right here. Mustn't get things wrong here because that's then burden. But something's done, fly up above. And then be with Baba, the angel, in your angelic form, and just give sakash to the world down below, to the whole planet, not my country or my center or this person or that person, but just with Baba to the whole globe. And so I've used that practice several times, and it's very lovely, good experience.
So thank you, Sister Jayanti. And just to let everyone know that the next revision is on 17th. It's a Wednesday, same time, 4 p.m. UK time. Then after that, Sister Jayanti's gone again to Madhuban. So please do join. And also in the chat, we have posted the previous Q&A link. So you can go to that and catch up on other questions. Thank you. We'll take Drishti and finish with meditation. Om
Thank
Shanti.
you to Runaben. Thank you to the team that's putting this together, and to all of you. Om Shanti.
Gather all people beneath the shadow of thy bounty, and cause them to unite in harmony, so that they may become as the rays of one sun, as the waves of one ocean, and as the fruit of one tree. Gather all people beneath the shadow of thy bounty, and cause them to unite in harmony, so that they may become as the rays of one sun, as the waves of one ocean, and as the fruit of one tree.